Hi, everybody. Welcome to our program. My name is David Nevins for City Biz, and we hope you enjoy this interview. Our guest today is my friend Paul Wiedefeld, and he is the Secretary of Transportation for the state of Maryland. Paul, welcome to our program.
Thank you, David. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you, as always. So, Paul, let's begin. You're in the news, or your department's in the news an awful lot, so we could probably begin anywhere, but maybe for our viewers, just share with us a little bit about the scope and the breadth of your department, what you're responsible for and what you oversee and so forth.
Sure. We're pretty unique in Maryland because the Department of Transportation manages pretty much all the modes of transportation, meaning the highway, transit, the Port of Baltimore, BWI, Thurgood Marshall Airport, the Motor Vehicle Administration, and then all the toll facilities as well, all under one roof. So we're one of the few in the nation has that model.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. So basically the scope of your department is somewhat broader than is typical, I guess you're saying, and most Marylanders have reason to deal with your department from not quite from birth, but from at least age 16, driver's license, and then essentially the rest of their lives, right?
Well, I hope they use the transit system before they turn able to drive.
Well, that's true. I forgot about
using our sidewalks and everything else that we do. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That's a very good point. So let's talk about those things that have been in the news the last year, and obviously the one that comes to mind first is the awful Key Bridge collapse. Tell us a little bit about that and where we are, and maybe it might be interesting to our viewers to hear how did you learn of this collapse, and where were you, and what took place at that moment.
Sure. It's a terrible tragedy, obviously, particularly for the 6 souls we lost there and our families. No, I received a call roughly just before 2 a.m. It happened roughly about 1:35 in the morning, if you may recall. And the initial reports were a little, not exact yet. There was a lot of information everyone was still gathering, but basically headed right down to the bridge itself, to our command center down there. And then basically, as you can imagine, started working from there. And, we were very clear from the beginning. The governor set the tone for that, which is we're going to find these poor souls and return them to their family. We're going to get the harbor open as quick as we can, given the tremendous impact it has on both the people that work there and the entire economy, and really the economy of the state, of the nation. And we're going to help those workers that basically, in a matter of 10 seconds, lost their jobs, right? And we have almost 19,000 people that work to the port. And then we got to rebuild a bridge very quickly, as quickly as possibly can. So that's what we've done the first 3. I think we have done all that. And now it's all focusing on rebuilding a bridge.
And I'm glad you reminded everyone of the tragedy and the 6 families most directly affected, and how sad that was. And of course, all Marylanders, for the most part, have been affected. So now we're at the rebuilding stage, and it seems like you and your colleagues are working pretty quickly to get us a new bridge. So share a little bit about where we are in that process.
Sure. Extremely aggressive. Again, shortly thereafter, we started working on that. So we have a contractor on board. We plan to have the bridge open in 4 years, fall of 28, which is extremely, extremely quick and aggressive. So we need a lot of partners to do that. We need our federal partners. We need our state and local partners to do that. But we've got to get that bridge rebuilt as quickly as we can, as efficiently as we can. But we also want it to be a bridge that we're all very proud of, and obviously also honors those poor 6 souls. So we're working through all that right now. And but if anyone's driven in the Baltimore region, there's almost a half-hour penalty morning and evening right now, and that is if things are going smoothly. And unfortunately, things on the system, generally things happen, whether an accident or something else happens or bad weather, and that number can grow. So that's not good for people's personal lives. It's not good for the economy. It's not good for people going down the Northeast coast, to be frank, because they have to go through I-95 or the 695 to do that. So it is a very, very big effort for us, and we're very, very focused on it.
I know one more question about the bridge. I know it's still being designed, and I know you guys are moving as efficiently and forward as you possibly can. I think you do know of some changes that the new bridge will bring about in terms of its height and skyline. Can you share some of that with us?
Sure. We'll build it to what's called interstate standards. So it'll be a much safer bridge in terms of for the traveling public. So for instance, having shoulders, right? Where if you recall, the previous bridge did not have shoulders to pull over if something were to happen. So we'll have things like that, just some of the basics. And the original bridge was roughly about 185 feet air draft, meaning from the water up at high tide. And then so we're looking at moving that up to about 235. And the reason we want to do that is as we look at the future business at the Port of Baltimore in terms of cargo ships and also cruise ships, that is sort of what what it requires to handle some of that future market. So we want to make sure we're building something that's going to meet the future needs decades into the future.
Again, fascinating, and of course, we wish you and the team building it the best, and total safety, obviously, as well in that regard. So, my next question, until this morning, was going to be a bit different, but then I read something else in the paper this morning. So, if you don't mind, we could go first bridge to bridge. So, I was reading about the Bay Bridge and I don't know if it's accurate to say some decisions that have been made in that regard, or at least what seems to be the current thinking. I think most of us were of the view that the state was looking at an alternative route to add a third bridge, but that seems to have been changed. Can you share with us where we are today?
Sure. It actually has not been changed. This has been in discussion for a few years now. An agreement was reached several years ago that in effect, a new bridge or new crossing would be somewhere in the vicinity of the existing bridge, give or take, some distance. And that was a decision that both Eastern Shore counties and Western Shore counties had made that were part of that process. This was several years ago before I got here. But we've been going through some environmental documentation process that we need to do, obviously for environmental purposes, for future funding purposes. So what we're doing is we'll be coming out in December to meet with the public to basically share some of the thoughts that we have, and then basically work over the next year to try to finalize those, what makes some sense, and then make a decision on which of those alternatives we want to pursue. And then we'll start the whole process of basically lining up for dollars and construction and all that. But I mean, I know, Dave, you have a place on the Eastern Shore. There's so many people in our region too, not only the Baltimore region, but the National Capital Region that come across that bridge. And it is part of the economy of the state of Maryland. So, and as you know, that is quite a bit of a bottleneck clearly in the summer. But we've seen now, I mean, it stretches, right, because of the different travel behaviors that we all have and opportunities that we have. So we've got to deal with that. And the bottom line is we have a very old bridge that needs to be dealt with, meaning particularly the eastbound bridge, that in fact, either we have to invest literally billions of dollars into that, or build something new that actually has some additional capacity to deal with the growth.
Yeah. Again, you have a lot on your plate. And again, I guess I would add, not the least of which, as a fairly frequent flyer myself, is the airport. And I see lots of construction taking place at the airport. And it honestly, I will tell you that of the many airports in which I, fly, both in and out of, I love BWI. And so can you share with us a little bit about what's going on there that we can hopefully look forward to?
Sure. And you touch a soft spot in me. I ran the BWI Airport for 10 years.
I know.
I actually was there when we built the Southwest Terminal and the Daily Garage, and you name it, we did a bunch of work back a few years ago. So what's really exciting there is, one of the things I hear about, I'm sure you've experienced it, is some of the baggage issues that we have when people get back from the flight. That is a little bit of the issue that we have to deal with. Just so you know, we don't run that portion of the business, the airlines do, but you have to give them the ability, the capacity to handle the number of bags they get. So that's what we're doing right now. We're expanding the AB concourse a connection there, which will give the airline, Southwest particularly, a lot more baggage capacity and throughput so they can get that. So that's huge for a customer perspective, but it's also very huge for their growth. The other thing that's really, it's sort of under the radar a little bit for people, but it is that Southwest is building a maintenance facility here. It'll be their first one in the Northeast. And it, further cements their commitment to the Baltimore-Washington region and to BWI. So that is really good. Tremendous high-paying jobs, very good jobs there that will create here. And again, it's just another step with our relationship with Southwest Airlines, and a fantastic relationship it's been.
Yeah, you know what? I hadn't realized that. I had really thought that the current construction was more about getting passengers from one concourse to the other more quickly, which I guess it is for that as well. But I'm thrilled to hear, so thank you, that it's also about getting your baggage to the terminal more quickly as well. I know that's one of the ththings that has been, let's just say, a criticism, if you will, of BWI.
Yeah, and the challenge that we face at BWI, it's the easy come, easy go airport, as we call it. But the reality is, I know when I was there, it could take you, maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes to get off the plane and get to the baggage carousel, which is fantastic. You don't have to walk, you don't have to get on a train, you don't have to get on a bus or whatever. You just get there. But people being people, they start tapping their toes and saying, "Where's my bag?" So the combination of the tremendous proximity we have to gates and everything, which is really a selling point for BWI, but also it does have that. So that's why a big part of this project will help soften that issue a little bit. But the reality is, it doesn't take you very long to get to that baggage carousel, and it does take a little bit of time to empty the belly of a plane and get it all the way over there. But
right,
improve it quite a bit.
Well, kudos to the team that is working on that and planned that. I had no idea, but that's great news. So again, switching gears a little bit, and many would suggest that your responsibilities for overseeing the Port of Baltimore are even more important than anything else we've discussed, given its importance to the state economy, and actually to the national economy and to the world economy, as we all just learned of what happens again, sadly, when the bridge fell and blocked the transit in the port. And all of a sudden that affected the international economy and cars coming in and out and a number of other things. So Paul, just share with us a little bit about the goings on at the Port of Baltimore and how that's operating, and good things ahead there as well.
Yeah, it's coming back strong. The cruise side of the business has come back just about to where it was. Obviously, during that one period, we could not service cruise lines, but I can tell you that they wanted to get back to Baltimore as quickly as they could because of the access that we have, particularly to the Midwest market, is really our selling point. That proximity to the Ohio Valley, and so we can pull from that whole area to our port for cruises and for cargo. So it was real important to get the cruise back up, because otherwise you had to go to Norfolk or somewhere else, New York, whatever, which is very painful for people that could only drive up to our cruise terminal. So that's come back. The cargo side's a little bit slower, only because of the sort of international supply train basically, of how they move cargo throughout the world. So basically they're rebuilding that all back up. We don't anticipate losing anything that we had. Obviously, year over year, we will not be able to hit where we were because of that lapse of time, but we see that coming back. But really, when you think about the future of the port, there's two big things that are happening. One is the Howard Street tunnel, which will allow double stacking of the cargo, which is fantastic. Again, that gets out to the Midwest market much quicker. And then the other is what's called Trade Point Atlantic, which is the old Bethlehem Steel plant, which is a 5 mile square development opportunity. and they are basically deepening their channel so that they can bring in the much larger ships. And that the combination of that with the other stuff that we have at Ports America, for instance, that runs the Seagirt terminal for us, tremendous opportunity for the Port of Baltimore going forward as we look into the future.
Well, again, Paul, we've learned a lot in this conversation. At least I have, and I think a number of our viewers have as well. I can't let you go though without a congratulatory note as a fellow Tiger, a fellow Towson University alumnus, and I guess I'll say how proud you must have been at having been named Towson University's Alumnus of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you. And really, when I was there with the other members that were being honored, wow, I mean, I felt undeserving because we have some really fantastic alumni that I got to meet there. So that was a really exciting evening. Thank you.
Well, you're as deserving as any of them, and it makes me proud that they honored you. And Towson's come a long way, hasn't it?
Sure has. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that a lot of us say we're not sure that we could get in today, but thank goodness we.
I know I couldn't.
Thank goodness we went there when we did, right?
Right.
Anyway, Paul, anything you want to add? Otherwise, I'm going to thank you for your generous allotment of time for us.
No, I thank you, David. And again, obviously, with this sort of messaging that you do, I think is important. I think there's a lot of interesting things happening in this area to educate people and to just inform people about all the different things that are happening in this just a tremendous area that we live. So thank you for doing that.
Well, it is our pleasure, and we look forward to having you back. Maybe we can do this again and hear about more updates. Again, thank you, Paul. Our guest today has been Paul Wiedefeld, and he's the Secretary of Transportation for the state of Maryland. And we hope you enjoyed the conversation. This is David Nevins for City Biz, and thank you for joining us today.